November 2nd, 2026, 6:47 a.m. Investigator Sarah Chen arrives at the desolate ruins of Station 13, deep in the morning fog of West Virginia. Welcome to this explainer of the Vexmoraxfiles. I am your archivist. Today we are examining a classified evidence log that completely defies the laws of physics. The physical site we are looking at burned to ash 41 years ago, yet she was led here by physical evidence. Sarah Chen never believed in time loops or curses, not until she held the tape in her hands. Let us open the case file.
Sarah, if you're hearing this, you're already part of it. Those are the haunting words of Ethan Brooks, a man who has been officially missing since 1985. But what is truly terrifying about this recording, and what makes this investigation so deeply unsettling, is that forensic analysis proves his warning was recorded yesterday. Let that sink in. A man trapped 41 years in the past, speaking directly to a young woman arriving at his location in the present.
To comprehend the catastrophe that unfolds, we must methodically review the official agenda of anomalies for Case File 04. We will document her return to Station 13, the discovery of the unburned basement, the mechanics of the 1985 paradox, the physical manifestation of the cosmic entity, and finally how the signal evolves. We must maintain absolute objectivity here, no matter how irrational this evidence log becomes.
Section 1. Return to Station 13. We begin by cataloging the initial environmental anomalies.
Investigator Chen arrived at the perimeter equipped with a camera, a flashlight, and the vintage tape labeled Ethan Brooks. The environment immediately began to reject her presence. The anomalies documented here were instantaneous and severe. Notice the impossibility of the site. The transmission tower still stood looming over the charred, collapsed walls from 1985, but modern technology completely failed to function. Her phone showed zero signal. Her GPS died instantly. Her compass spun wildly, unable to lock onto true north, indicating a massive localized electromagnetic distortion. And all the while she played the mysterious warning tape. Ethan's voice, crackling to the mist, telling her not to trust her eyes, not to trust her ears, and warning her never, under any circumstances, to go into the basement.
But when Sarah looked up from her malfunctioning equipment, she saw it. How does a basement survive a fire that burned the earth above it? Standing directly amidst the charred, decayed ruins was a basement door, completely intact, completely untouched by the catastrophic flames of 1985. It simply should not exist.
Section 2. The Unburned Basement. Despite the desperate warning echoing from the tape recorder, Investigator Chen made the decision to initiate the descent protocol and approach the anomaly. This is where the baseline of our reality begins to permanently fracture. We have reconstructed her chilling descent step by step. First, she documented that the door handle was unnaturally warm to the touch. It had been used recently. Then, she heard footsteps echoing from the absolute darkness below. Heavy footsteps that had no logical right to exist in a condemned ruin. She descended down pristine, undamaged stairs, her flashlight beam cutting through the thick dust, until she entered a subterranean room. A room lined wall-to-wall with vintage CRT monitors, all bleeding dead, hissing static into the dark. What is truly terrifying about this evidence is the paradoxical nature of the surveillance feeds she encountered. Monitor 1 flickered to life, displaying a live feed of Sarah herself, viewed from behind. But when she violently spun around, the corridor was entirely empty. There were no cameras. Then, Monitor 2 activated. It displayed young Ethan Brooks, broadcasting from 1985, staring directly into the lens and saying, "She's coming, Sarah, don't trust me." Two radically different decades, observing the exact same room at the exact same moment in time.
Section 3. The 1985 Paradox. To comprehend the trap Investigator Chen had walked into, we must clinically map out the chronological discrepancies of the case.
Look closely at this impossible timeline. In 1985, Station 13 burns to the ground, and its chief engineer vanishes without a trace. 14 years later, in 1999, Sarah is born. Fast forward to 2026, and Sarah arrives at the ruins. Yet, the tape she brought with her, the tape from Ethan Brooks, a man swallowed by the 1985 fire, was undeniably recorded yesterday. Let the sheer weight of this timeline weigh heavily on you. Time inside this station is not a straight line. It is a closed, corrupted loop, and Sarah was standing directly in the center of it.
The tape in Sarah's hand began to grow dangerously hot, searing her skin.
She dropped it, but it didn't hit the pristine concrete floor. It floated, suspended in midair, completely defying gravity. The reels began to turn on their own. Ethan's voice echoed from the levitating plastic casing. Sarah Chen, born March 15, 1999. You've been searching for your father.
As the tape revealed its devastating secret, a new voice called out from the shadows. A man stepped forward into the pale glow of the monitors, mid-60s, worn, exhausted, moving with the heavy burden of a ghost. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She instantly recognized that face from the single, faded photograph she owned. It was the former chief engineer. It was her own father. He had been trapped in this subterranean purgatory for 4 grueling decades. He had tried to stop the broadcast from spreading, but instead became a permanent prisoner of it.
Section 4. The Cosmic Entity Manifests. This is the precise moment where the investigation moves entirely beyond human tragedy and plunges into the dark abyss of cosmic horror. Her father looked at her with tears welling in his eyes, explaining that she was the only one who could finally close the door or open it forever. Instantly, every CRT monitor in the room violently activated. As the objective data maps out, the screens didn't show static anymore. They displayed infinite parallel timelines, infinite versions of Sarah facing the exact same horrific choice. Timeline A showed the Sarahs who chose to close the door. Timeline B showed the Sarahs who chose to open it. And Timeline C showed the horrifying fate of those who failed, screaming as their physical bodies were assimilated directly into the signal, suffering the exact same fate as Ethan Brooks.
Then, the true architect of this paradox manifested in the room, the entity. We must define this anomaly with clinical accuracy. It was not a monster. It was not a ghost. It was the broadcast itself, a living, paradoxical signal made flesh, a Lovecraftian horror born purely of corrupted radio frequencies, manipulating human tragedy across decades simply to ensure its own continuous transmission. The entity spoke through every single monitor simultaneously, its voice an agonizing chorus of thousands of assimilated victims. It delivered a chilling, binary ultimatum. Close the door, sever the station's connection to the world, and your father dies forever. Or, open the door, set him free, and you take his place, joining the endless broadcast. The suffocating weight of this choice hung thick in the air. Her father simply nodded, fully ready to accept his permanent sacrifice to save his daughter's life.
Section 5. The signal evolves. But Investigator Chen violently refused to accept the rules of a timeline dictated by a cosmic parasite. She decided to rewrite the broadcast herself. She immediately initiated a desperate subversion protocol. Instead of choosing between the door or her father, Sarah lunged forward. She violently seized the floating tape mid-air, hit the primary record switch, and forced a third, impossible option. She began speaking her own truth directly into the microphone, recording a brand new broadcast to physically override the entity's frequency. "I'm not closing the door," she declared into the magnetic tape. "I'm not opening it. I'm changing the signal."
The reaction was nothing short of apocalyptic. The entity screamed in a frequency that violently shattered every CRT monitor in the facility. The very fabric of reality began to bend and tear as the underground structure collapsed under the weight of the paradox breaking. And amidst the raining glass and deafening noise, her father began to fade away into the dark. But he wasn't screaming. For the first time in 41 years, he was smiling. He was finally, truly free.
The screens in our evidence log cut to black. Dead quiet. And then, a completely new broadcast broke through the interference. It was Sarah's voice, transmitting with absolute clarity to multiple locations, overriding the anomaly entirely. "This is Station 13, her voice echoed, "but not as you knew it. I've taken control of the signal, and I'm broadcasting the truth." Sarah had not just survived the entity, she had subjugated it.
The signal continues. She is the new Station 13. The broadcast has fundamentally evolved, and the boundaries of this mystery have expanded far beyond a single burned-down basement in West Virginia. She is now fighting the anomaly from inside the transmission itself.
But this leaves us staring into the dark. Who else is investigating out there? If the signal has reached other locations, who is listening to Sarah's broadcast? And what is the entity's true origin? The case file on Station 13 remains open. Until we decode the next transmission, stay alert. And never stop questioning the reality you see.